Hello everyone. In this video, we will see how to construct a gunman as part of additional constructions. Let's go to step 1. In step 1, we are going to connect two L plates and one rectangular plate using two flat connectors and four nut and bolts here. So one on this side, one on this side, and two flat connector using two nut and bolts this side. So here flat connector is only connected to L plate. It is not connected to the rectangular plate. Why? We will see that in the next step. We are also going to connect one flat rotator here using one nut bolt, which will create one hole here. And through that hole, we are going to pass one small axle. And on the inside, the axle is locked using a shaft lock, while on the outside, we have inserted one spacer here. In addition, in this step, we are going to connect a DC motor using motor shaft, and we are going to insert one spacer onto the motor shaft. Let's move on to the next step. Now, the earlier assembly is in a standing position here. Here we are going to attach two L plates to this rectangular plate using one nut bolt here. If you remember, in last step we did not attach a nut bolt here. So now this nut bolt is connecting the flat connector, the rectangular plate and this L plate together, and one more nut bolt here. Similarly, on the right hand side, we are going to connect one nut bolt here and one nut bolt here. Let's go to step 3. In step 3, we are connecting a C plate to these two L plates so that our assembly is stable using two nut and bolts here and two nut and bolts this side. We are also connecting one double bar to this body. It is going to act as a hand, and it is going to be connected using one nut and bolt here. But between the L plate and the double bar, we have inserted one spacer just to ensure that there is a space between hand and the body. Let's move on to step 4. In step 4, we take one square plate and attach a DC motor using motor shaft and insert one spacer onto the motor shaft. We also connect one L connector to the square plate. Now between L connector and the square plate, there is a spacer sandwiched in between here, and this is connected using one nut bolt. Similarly, on this side, L connector, then the spacer, and connected using a nut and bolt. We'll call this assembly as assembly A. In step 5, we again take one more square plate and we take two L connectors and connect a flat rotator to these two L connectors using two nut and bolts. Now observe the direction of the bolts here. The tail is down here. Now these two L connectors are then connected to the square plate using one nut and bolt here and one more nut and bolt this side. We'll call this assembly as assembly B. In step 6, we will connect assembly A to the body using one nut bolt here. We had a L connector, if you remember, to assembly A. That L connector is connected to the body using one nut bolt, and here also the another L connector is connected to the body using one nut bolt. Now the assembly 2, which is our head assembly, is inserted onto the motor shaft which was there on assembly A and then locked using a shaft lock. Let's move to step 7. In step 7, we have connected one big gear onto the axle, and then we have put two spacers. Here you see this is a hub, but I would suggest that you put two spacers instead of one hub and one spacer. Here we are going to put one medium gear and lock it with a shaft lock. Let's move on to step 8. Here we are creating the second arm using a double bar and a flat rotator which is connected to the double bar using two nuts and bolts, and that means only square hole is available. We'll call this as assembly C, and this square hole we will mount it on this axle and lock it using a shaft lock. So this hand will move when we move the motor, and that's hand which will have a gun, and the head also will rotate when we rotate this second motor. So this completes our Gunman. I hope you will be able to make it easily. Once you make it, operate it, and do write your comments in the comment section. Happy making!